Good morning, everyone. I'm Kevin Allen, joined by my usual broadcast partner, former NHL defenseman Tom Laidlaw. Played 11 seasons for the New York Rangers and Los Angeles Kings. This is the Laidlaw and Allen Report. We come to you twice a week to talk all things hockey and cooking and daily life, and maybe even changing a tire. That's what Tom and I were talking about prior to we come on. I don't know if we're going to go there, but
can I tell a quick story about how stupid I am? Just real quick.
Yeah, feel free. Yeah,
I topped it yesterday. So I was going through a four-way stop. I got there first. Another car wanted to go ahead of me, so they kind of rolled through the stop. Of course, I felt I was going to change the world by staring him down and giving him the 1,000-yard stare. Wasn't paying attention where I went. Hit the curb, and all of a sudden the tire pressure gauge in my car starts dropping on the rear tire. I popped the tire, and so not only was I mad at the guy, I got more mad at myself because how stupid I was. So here we go. Learned a lesson.
Was the guy intimidated by your stare?
I don't think so. I don't think he cared less at all. He was driving kind of one of those, like a flower shop truck or something like that. And I'm sure he just looked at me like, and I'm sure he probably saw me hit the curb too. So he's probably laughing at me too. It's made it even worse.
So. Yeah, that's a shame. So anyway, well, yeah. And did you get a new tire? How much that cost you?
I had a spare tire, so I just put the spare on right now. I'm going to take the other tire in this afternoon to see what kind of damage I did. I didn't see damage, so I don't know if I just popped the seal and started leaking out.
Yeah. No, that makes some sense. Yeah. All right, let's start with the New York Rangers because, and I don't even know whether they were doing this back when you were playing or not. But I've heard, and but I've never talked to any of the players about it. But they always make reference on it on television broadcasts that players sort of, when they're playing their former teams, post some kind of bounty. Like they write it on the board. Now, were they doing that back when you were playing?
Yeah, but it was small. It was like $50 or something like that. Yeah, now it's
now. So how do you get to $50? That's what I don't understand. Like,
it's more for the guys if they get if the team wins and plays well. Obviously, if they win, then the guys, it's money for the guys to go buy beers. But again, I say,
I got you. Yeah, so you throw it out as the pool, and then people use that when they go to if they're going out for afterward for.
Especially on the road, it really works well, right? Because the guys usually go someplace together. Sometimes it's different at home, but yeah, that's the concept. Yeah.
Well, so that's what I'm asking. Do you think Georgiev put something on the wall? Put out $1,000 if you guys can beat my former team? Because he did his part.
Yes, yeah. Well, listen, he's a proud man, and I admire him for that. That he's he left obviously knowing that Shesterkin is all world. But he's going to say himself, listen, I'm pretty good too myself, right? So, he wanted to go back there and show them that he was a pretty good goaltender himself, and he did. Yeah, that was, again, you don't want to – I'm being a Ranger guy. I don't want to see the Rangers lose. But that was one of those stories, though, from a player standpoint, you kind of go, wow, that's pretty cool, right? Go back.
No, I thought that last night, and I didn't see that game. Not one of the games that I watched, but when I saw –
one interesting play I want to talk about, there was a play where they could not review it. Lafreniere was checking somebody in front of the net. And so two players came on him. One of the Colorado players, his stick flew up and hit his own teammate in the face. It kind of looked like from the back that it was Lafreniere. Once they went to the replay, you can see it was not Lafreniere, but they couldn't review the play, which was I thought was interesting. I thought they kind of obviously that's the rule, but because it was that I guess because a high sticky penalty or whatever it is, they couldn't review the play. So
wow. Yeah, that's the problem though. The minute you started to open the door to replay, the problem is, so many different kinds of plays impact the outcome.
Yeah.
And, you really can't look at them all. I mean, you really can't. I mean, otherwise the game would take twice as long because, so many plays that are just small things, end up having major impact. Depending on when they have.
And what was interesting, the referees all got together for a couple of minutes and held up play to discuss the play. Because obviously they were being told that, you got it wrong, but they're not supposed to look at the replay to know that they got it wrong, right? So
yeah, but sometimes they know right away. And that I'm sure when you were playing this happened because I've heard I've had officials tell me and players tell me that officials do come and say, yeah, we missed that one. I'm sorry about that. So
but I have seen plays where that kind of things happen and they don't go to the replay, but maybe the linesman sees the play instead of the referee.
Yeah, and that's what they're asking when they're getting together like that. Did they say, "Does any of you guys see it?" Because if one of them sees it, they can use that information.
Definitely.
And you want to get get it right. I mean, that's the thing that always gets lost in all these things is if people are trying to get it right. It's just they've got to do it within. They've got to find right within the context of the rules.
Yeah, you got to remember there's people at home watching on TV. There's fans in the audience. They don't want to sit there like every 10 minutes having a replay.
Right, right. Yeah, I mean, this is still the entertainment, business that we're into. I want to talk about Chicago Blackhawks, because I think I was wrong on them. Like I felt like the Blackhawks, when you look at their sell-offs that they made, getting rid of DeBrincat and not even qualifying Kubalik, who has 10 points, by the way, in his first 6 games with the Red Wings, 4 multiple point games in a row. And Strom, they let him go as well because they're, quote, rebuilding, unquote. And so I was assuming that they were going to be near the bottom, even though I cautioned it by saying, Patrick Kane is still on that team, Jonathan Toews is still on that team. I don't know if you've looked at the standings lately or was watching the game last night. Blackhawks are 4-2.
Yeah,
and they beat the Florida Panthers last night, correct?
Yeah.
They beat the Florida Panthers. They're supposed to be a contender. I watched them play. They don't know they're rebuilding.
Yeah.
Like the players on the ice, they don't know that.
I like that. I love that. Yeah.
And they don't care.
Yeah.
Like they're competing. They compete very hard. I've watched them play 2 games now, and both times I came away thinking, they're competing pretty hard. They don't care that management is rebuilding. They're not.
Oh, don't you love that? I mean, that says a lot about the leadership of the locker room too. Like to say to the guys, listen, screw all these guys. Nobody thinks we can win. They're purposely trying to lose. Let's go give it everything we got. I think it's a pretty easy way to play at some place. There's no pressure. If you lose, well, maybe it says you're supposed to lose anyway. So,
yeah. I always want to bang my head against the wall when I see fans saying the players are trying to tank. Players, and I want to repeat this because I like to say it like 43 times a year to try to get it in his head. Players and coaches never tank.
Yeah.
They don't care what management wants to do because, on a rebuilding team, most of those players will be gone when the team is ready to play again. So
they
it's
need
not their mission. They're not trying to get a better draft pick because those kids are coming in to take their jobs. So
imagine the general manager, like he's saying, okay, we're tanking. Whether they actually, however phrase they say it, the management group gets together and say, okay, here's our strategy. We're selling off all these players, and we're going to get first overall in the draft. That's logic. But then the team and the coaches go out there and work their tails off. Like it's almost like the GM. You want to go down and have a conversation with, but you can't. Like you just said, you can't go to the coaches and the players and say, guys, can you back off a little bit? It doesn't happen, right?
Yeah, no, it doesn't happen at all. I mean, tanking is a managerial move, and you tank by manipulating your roster. Right. By doing things like getting rid of Alex DeBrincat or not qualifying Kubalik. Or other players, giving up on players, moving out top players, trading Patrick Kane, which likely will happen, I assume, at some point for 3 first-round equivalents. Those kind of things. That's tanking. That's managerial manipulation of rosters. But the actual act of throwing games, that just doesn't happen. Players they're not buying in. They're bothered by it. So. That's interesting. I did want to talk to you about another thing too, because we need a player insight on this. Yesterday in the Red Wings game, they lost their first game, their last team in regulation, last game to lose a game in regulation in the league. So 31 other teams had already lost a game in regulation. The Red Wings had not. Wow. But last night, the Devils took them to the woodshed. The one observation I have about the Devils is they are quick. Right. They are very, very quick. Right. They're a quick team, especially it was the second day of back-to-back games. But Lalonde made Newsy Lalonde, as he likes to be called. Newsy said that after the game, this is the second time this season that he's given them a day off before a game, and they've come out flat. Right. Now, that seems like we should all kind of know that isn't a good idea. I mean, how do you feel about that? I mean, did you like to have a practice the day before? Did you want to be off? I mean, do you feel sluggish?
Oh yeah, you always. If I wanted a day off, I did not want it to be the day before a game. I wanted to be even if it was like a 45-minute skate. It wasn't a real hard one. Yeah, you want to go to the ice. It's weird why like one day off when you get back on the ice, it's like you've lost it. Kind of takes you a little bit to get going. But not surprising to me that Detroit would not do well against. They're probably looking at New Jersey, and no matter how many times the coach would say to them, "Listen, don't underestimate the New Jersey Devils. They're still an NHL hockey team. They're going to come to play hard. They're fast." With a young team like Detroit's got, and I'm not picking on it, it's just human nature, I think, because you don't have as much experience. It's easier to say, well, okay, you're telling me that, but okay, I'm going to take a shortcut here, or I'm going to take a shortcut here. And then all of a sudden, everybody's taking shortcuts. We don't play the way we're supposed to play, and then it's hard to get going again, right? So,
well, Newsy, pointed out, Dylan Larkin scored a quick goal for the first 4 or 5 minutes. The Red Wings played, pretty well. They were attacking and everything. And Dylan Larkin came in. Interesting stat on Larkin. That was since the beginning of last season. That was the 12th first goal of the game he had scored.
Oh,
and no other NHL player has more first goals of the game over that period than Dylan Larkin.
Wow, that's pretty cool. Preparation.
Yeah, he's ready to go. When the game starts, he's ready to go. But anyway. And Newsy said, I don't want to believe this is true, but did we think, this, we got it now. This is he's going to be an easy game. And, they know that New Jersey's on the second day of back-to-backs.
Yeah.
So, and, I've talked about this before, self-fulfilling. You shouldn't, because you got to work 2 consecutive days. Yep. You shouldn't be so worn out that you can't do it. But, we talk about it so much, like, oh, my God.
Well, and I think the coaches coach accordingly, right? They'll play the backup goaltender maybe in the second night. They don't always do that, but they send the message to the team that, okay, we're going to treat this differently because it's the second game of back-to-backs. And then the players, even if they don't say it, then the players see that, and then like you said,
a message. It's a subliminal message. That
John Tortorella was a couple of years in the playoffs or something. He was very. People would ask him, say, "Well, it's the second game back-to-back." He'd go, that doesn't matter. Like he was clearly trying to convince his players that this is irrelevant. Just go play the game. That's the one part. Like just doing a lot more mental stuff for players now, like training their minds and everything. And that's the one part. I don't know if they're doing it. It'd be interesting to find out if they have somebody that's going to the players to try to get to. Because you think of the points that they potentially lose in those back-to-back nights because they aren't mentally sharp like they should be. So,
speaking of messages that are inadvertent. I remember years ago I was covering the Olympics, and it was the year that Paul Kariya was on the team. I think it was Lindros on that team too. It's been a long year. It might have been in Norway. Right. And when you went to cover the Canadian practice, you can almost be on the bench. Like it was kind of open, and you could talk to the guys. Everybody was available. Right. You went to the American practice. It was like they were in a bubble. Like everything was regulated. You couldn't talk to all the players. You could only talk to them and one at a time. They brought them out, and I thought the message there was wrong. Like I thought you're telling your American players, man, this is so big, and you should be nervous. You can't talk to the media. It's total focus. You can't think about anything but hockey. Where the Canadians, people looked at, we've been through this before. When the game time starts, we'll be ready. Right. And of course, we know that was the game. That was the big Peter Forsberg, goal. But Canada obviously medaled, and the U.S. did not.
Right. And that's the thing. Like I know we've had this discussion before. People say, "Well, okay, like in a game 7 in the playoffs, do you prepare differently?" And it's kind of hard to believe for some people or something that no, you don't, because you're preparing the same way for every game. You want to play your best every game. You want to win every game. So why would you change just because it's game 7? So I think it's the same thing. Yeah, you're making a bigger deal, but it really is just prepare the same way that you always prepare. Yeah, I agree.
Well, Teemu Selanne and Paul Kariya were very good friends. And Paul Kariya didn't talk to the media in the morning of the game. He was like to get his focus on. Sure. Teemu Selanne used to turn tennis matches on during the game, so he could, when he came in between periods, he could check the scores and do all that. And used to drive Paul crazy. Like, how can you do that? How can you focus? Yeah. And Teemu, of course, who was a warrior. Brian Burke used to say, he was an honorary resident of Saskatchewan or something.
Yeah.
It was like he was born in Western Canada because whatever happened, whatever injury he got, he was out there playing. He played a frisky game. Solani was no, lightweight.
Yeah,
he could do that. But, he was intense. Once the game started, he could play. But you know what? Between periods, he could check the tennis scores.
It reminds me of Tiger Williams. When I got traded to LA, Tiger Williams was there. And it was our first training camp, my first training camp there. So I got traded at the end of the season, went to training camp for next year. Tiger was there. And, I'm the same way, especially preseason games. I'm having fun in the locker room. I'm picking up people, joking around. That's more for me to keep myself relaxed so I can think better out there. And I remember Tiger saying to the young kids on the team, he goes, I don't know how he does it, but I don't want you guys acting like Laidlaw over there because you need to prepare for the game. He says, but I don't know how he does it. So I was kind of laughing when he said that, because I just had always done it. It was just always my way, or it became my way. I guess I maybe didn't do it early, but yeah.
Yeah, I always heard Tiger Woods was a nice guy, but he was always grumpy. I mean, every time you talked to him, he was just grumpy all the time.
I think it was his act. Because I think he was really sharp about putting on a certain perception for the public. So that's his brand.
Yeah.
He's that dumb guy that's just, Western Canadian fighter all the time. Bob Bourne and I, when I got traded there, Bob Bourne and I were together. Tiger invited us over for a pregame meal over at his place. So this is back in 86, 87, something like that. We walked in the place. He was one of the first people I'd ever seen, not just athlete. He had a computer hooked up with the ticker tape going across the bottom of the screen. He was monitoring his stocks that he was investing. So there was the one guy you would see publicly, and then there's the guy you would see privately. He was very calculating. I remember the time where Bobby Carpenter was on the team. We came back to Washington after Bobby Carpenter had a long holdout with the Washington Capitals, and we're in warm-ups, and this large gentleman was sitting there with the popcorn box, and popcorn's all over his shirt and everything, and he's just screaming at Carpenter during the warm-ups. You suck and all this kinds of stuff. And I'll never forget, I'm skating around at center ice, and Pete Peters is goalie for it's just one of those things where you kind of come together where you're skating. And he stops all of a sudden. He says, Tommy, look at this. And Tiger had gotten all the pucks up in his jersey, somehow made a little bucket, got up on the glass and was throwing the pucks at this large gentleman. Okay, so it looked like Tiger's lost his mind, but he waited. I watched him do this. He waited till everybody got in the locker room. And he said to everybody, he says, nobody does that to one of our teammates. So he calculated that whole thing, both doing it and what he had to say afterwards, sending that message. He's pretty sharp. I admired him. I know you had some run-ins with him, but I admired him because he was one of those guys that got the most out of his career. I thought, his talent level.
Yeah, no, for sure. Yeah, I just found him grumpy. That's the only thing I would say about him. And like I said, people would tell me that he was a good guy. So and people that I trust. So probably he was, but he just the persona he wanted the media to think is don't come near me.
Absolutely. Yes, that's what he wanted. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, it's funny about fans in the stands. Jeremy Roenick, who I know well, has so many good stories about that. There was a guy in Columbus who just would hold up signs that would just ride him all the time.
Right.
But the signs were clever. And after a while, Jeremy became friends with the guy. He would look for him and he'd point up to him and then say thumbs up if it was a clever sign and all that kind of stuff. Sometimes they can have fun with it. But what I wanted to bring up, just so people can understand the difference in personalities. So Tiger Woods is looking at all of his stocks. Now, I'm assuming you never did that. You'd be the guy that would have 3 or 4 of your checks laying on top of your dresser in your bedroom, right?
That's unbelievable. Like your spy. So it's Tiger Williams. You said Woods, but that's fine. So he was, and I did my rookie year. I didn't do this after my rookie year, but Chris Katsopoulos and myself rented an apartment from Dave Maloney and his wife. And Vicky was her name. And she came by the apartment just to check on things. And I don't think I had cashed any of my checks. It's probably 2 or 3 months into the season. They're all laying on the floor in my bedroom. She was like, Tom, what are you doing? Because I was that rookie. I'd never had money before. I didn't really care. I'd had a car. I had enough money to go buy beer and all that kind of stuff. And,
Well, yeah. I mean, most of the time in those days, the young players were just living on their road meal money. I mean,
sure.
I know
my accountant that I had at the time, my agent was accountant as well. He said, he was a secretary. She said to me, Tom, you can spend some money, right? And I was like, well, I'm fine. I've got more money than I've ever had in my life, so I'm doing pretty good.
Yeah. Just a question, totally off, but maybe
Yeah.
some of our listeners will have opinions on this because I've been talking about it with a relative of mine who is involved in youth sports, and the discussion in this case is in basketball, but I think it applies to hockey as well. At what age do you no longer worry about crushing an opponent? In other words, like in this instance, they're talking about calling off the dogs if you've got a huge lead in a basketball game, and the league, has a rule that says, you can't beat someone by more than 30 points. And, in this case, the guy says, yeah, but I want my star players to, be that. And, what's your feelings on youth sports? This is in the, this is not even high school. This is the, youth. Is it, what do you think of that?
I can see this. Maybe stop putting the goals up on the screen so people see that. But it's kind of unfair to the good team that's winning because, again, they've probably worked hard at their skills and become better players. And now they're going out there and they get rewarded for doing that. So it's like, okay, you want to protect these other kids on the other team, but are you kind of punishing, like you're saying? To me, I don't like the rule. I think let them go play. And again, there's lessons to be learned from losing. And a good coach now will get his team together and say, okay, guys, now we need to work on stuff here. We got beat badly, and we deserve to get beat badly. We're not working hard, whatever it is. We're not working hard enough. You're not coming to practice. I just think it's an opportunity. I don't like the whole theory about trying to protect these kids and not have them go through adversity. I think that they need to go through adversity and learn to recover from that adversity. So,
yeah, not surprising. You and I disagree on this.
Yeah.
I think 10 and 11 is too young for that. I think, in the idea of youth sports is, not all the players are going to play at an advanced level,
right.
And you're just trying to teach kids, good, healthy athletic habits, and also being part of an environment and getting, trounced 14, 15, 16 to nothing. That's just not fun. And you're not learning anything because you can't do anything against a good team. So what I would prefer is that there'd be sort of a gentleman's agreement. The problem is we don't have gentlemen, in coaching youth sports. I say that knowing that there are obviously some who do that.
Yep.
But it would be nice if they would call off the dogs, and then, it helps their team too, because not even really good teams have some poor players. Right. So those are the players in my mind that should be playing against the best players on the weaker team, so that everybody benefits. Those younger players who don't play much because, they're in a good team and they're not very good, they get to play. And then the good players on the very bad team, they get to finally sort of use what skills they have, even though they're not as good as the skills of the top players on the top team. And then, everybody benefits. And I don't understand what's so hard about that concept. Like, the idea is you want to create a fun environment, especially at that age. Like, it's, we're not talking junior hockey here. We're talking,
right.
We're talking, 10, 11-year-olds.
Yeah.
So
here's the thing that I think the question is always asked is, do you play so everybody gets to play, or do you play to win? Well, I think for me, it's a lot. I know you feel the same way too. It's a lot of life lessons. I think that's one of the biggest things we get from youth sports. It's life lessons. But it's also, yes, I want to win. I want to win at the end of the season, win that championship. It's the process that goes into winning that's important for you. Because it's not about the win. It's not about the trophy as much. It's about the process. Now, to win at the end of the year, you want every player on your team to be the best player possible. So therefore, you need to play all the players to get them better. You can't have, your fourth line or your third line not having any confidence in themselves, and all of a sudden you get to a championship game, you need to count on them when you haven't played them all year long. So I think and I hear you. I do. It's one of those ones like you're crushing a team. You're right. I'd like to see the coaches adjust their lines a little bit. You shouldn't have to have a rule. But I played in coaching games like that too, where I'll hear the other coach go, "All right, pour it to him now. When he comes back with the same players, the same top six players.
Especially at that level. Again, I get it. If you're playing the junior hockey, you're older. You kind of understand how it all works. But at a younger level, you're just trying to keep them in the game.
Yeah, to me, it's all about educating the coaches. Listen, you've got an opportunity here. Whether you're the team that's winning or you're the team that's losing, there's an opportunity here to teach another life lesson. So if you're the team that's winning, Okay, maybe those guys that don't get played as much haven't get played more. Then you're showing the top players that, listen, you're on a team here. It's not just you guys on the team. It's the whole 20 guys or whatever you have on the team. So it's, listen, you and I have been through a lot of stuff, a lot of experiences, right? So we've formed this opinion now that it probably is different than it was 30 years ago, saying that hockey or sports, youth sports, is for life lessons. Some coaches just maybe never get that. They don't understand. And I've seen coaches like that too. They're actually very good hockey coaches, but they're just looking at winning a championship, and they're not looking at how to develop.
That's, and I get it. I'm not one of those guys that doesn't believe in competition and participation trophies. I'm not that guy at all. In fact, my idea is that you got to teach people how to compete, because you got to compete every day of your life as you grow older. You're competing for jobs. You're competing for a spouse. You gotta want to compete in order to to find some success in life. So I'm not that guy at all. But I do think you have to kind of create opportunities for people to kind of find their way. And if you're a hockey team and you're beating someone 10-0, and your top players are still playing 20 minutes up front and 26 minutes, if there's something wrong. And the same thing in basketball. If you're winning by 30 points in basketball, which is the one that I've started this with, and your top players are playing 3/4 of the game, that's wrong too.
So do they have rules in basketball for youth basketball?
They do it in this particular one, and that's the subject of the irritation. The one coach has a really good team, and he says he doesn't want to hold his team back, and he wants to play them 75% of the time. Right. And because he wants them to be sharp at the end. But I don't think you get sharper by playing against people that really pose no obstacle to you. But you can make your 8, 9, 10, 11, 12th players on your team better by playing them against the better teams. Even though they're a bad team, right, those players are probably better than your weakest players.
And that's the odd thing, is that if he plays those guys at the bottom end of the roster, the team will be a better team, because those bottom players will get more playing time. So that's the thing about it. It's like he's not really thinking it through. Right?
Yeah, and I hate to use the phrase late bloomers when you're talking about younger players, but there are players who benefit and kind of rise up. They're late to develop anyway. Yeah, it was just kind of a thing that came by. I ended up having a lengthy discussion about all this.
Yeah, and you're right about the late bloomer thing too. And I tell kids all the time, when I first started playing hockey in Canada, I honestly could not stand up my skates. The only reason I became a good enough skater was my sister was a figure skater. My father would be off farming, so my mother would have to take my sister to figure skating. Well, I couldn't be left alone, so they brought me. I went out there with my hockey skates and did all the figure skating stuff. That's how I learned how to skate. But so I tell kids at camps all the time, they get out to the ice at first. The Rangers have all these learn to play and everything, learn to skate. And the kids are out there and they're falling down, they're upset, they're crying. And I tell them, since I played in the NHL for 11 years, and I could, you're a better skater than I am right now, or that I was, well, right now too, but when I was that age, you're a better skater. And they look at you first, and then, by the end of the session, when they're starting to skate and having fun, they're kind of looking at you like, oh, okay, I get it. Yeah.
I would pay 12 cents to see films of you doing figure skating.
Shoot the duck. I would do the shoot the duck. All those guys. Remember shoot the duck? You get down there. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I know. Yeah, I agree. It's funny now, right? That would be very funny to see me doing figure skating moves. Yeah.
Yeah. If they still had that show where, former hockey players would come on and end up as dance partners, think like you would do that. I mean, you've done Survivor. Why can't you do that as well? So,
and there's a chance. Was it? I think I can dance or something. There's a show on, or there's I might get on a dance show too. But
is that really a possibility?
Yeah, it is possible. It's just been discussed early, so yeah.
Yeah, wow, wouldn't that be? Is this all from your Madison Square Garden shake your booty stuff that you're doing?
Well, I've certainly, since I danced there. Now every time I go to an event, I just can't stop dancing in front of people. Or if I've done a few videos where I'm dancing and everything, so. Yeah, I'm starting to. The scary thing is that I'm starting to think that I'm actually a good dancer, and that's a scary proposition.
Yeah, well, that's always, and there's nothing worse than people, than males who think they can dance.
Yeah, I know. So. and then you look at the video yourself and you go, maybe I can't.
Yeah, no, that's interesting. That's very interesting. Anyway, getting back to the hockey world, the Pittsburgh Penguins started out strong, and all of a sudden they've gone out to the West Coast, and it's been a little problematic for them. The Oilers and the Flames, that daily double in Alberta now with the Oilers with all of their offensive strength and the Flames with the Sutter machine. That's a little bit more of a difficult trip than it was.
Remember back in the 80s, that used to be it too, right? To go Calgary and Edmonton, those games. Oh man, they're tough. How about the Boston Bruins though too? Like, not that I thought they were a bad team, but man, they just find a way to win.
Yeah, who cares who's injured? No matter, no McAvoy, no Marchand. You know, Krejci has come back. Well, he won't be the same player. No, wrong. He is the same player. Treese Bergeron, you know, he's 64 years old, so age. He's out there playing. Everything's all good. Well, it's culture. You and I talk about it all the time. You know, it
shows how bad of a coach Cassidy was. That's what it is.
Well, but Coach Cassidy's doing fine in Vegas.
Well, they got such good players. They got Jack Eichel there and everything. So,
well, you think he had poor players in Boston? I think not.
How is Eichel doing? I haven't followed his points.
Oh, he's off to a great start.
Darn.
Yeah. But that hurts you, I know. So I didn't read the story, but I saw the headline that Barry Trotz is interested in original 16s. So that's what the headline was. I don't know what that means, but I
think I don't know. The story I hear is that his coaching days are done. But
we'll see. It seems like he'll be first in line if somebody gets whacked. Would the New Jersey Devils consider him if they move out?
Their coach is already on the bench. Their assistant coach is already on the bench.
Andrew
the little birdie tells me that Ruff was told that if they were bringing in this coach, or actually, did they want him to help find the coach or whatever it was? He apparently said to them, he said, let me get this straight. So you want me to help bring in another coach that's going to take my job away if we have a rough start? And basically, I understand that they said, yes, that is true.
Well, they played pretty well for him last night. I like a lot of their players too. They got a pretty good collection of younger talent. Like Bratt is a good player. Obviously they've got Hughes.
How about the Islanders? Where they are? What are they?
They're. I was kind of hopeful that the change of coaches maybe would open up the offense, but then people are saying, well, it was really Lambert last year was doing a lot of it, so it's really kind of the same. And Lamoriello made no changes, and now he's paying the price for that because they're still not scoring. And it's a shame because they've got exceptional goaltending.
Yeah, totally. And they've got like a real culture there of winning, like that good defensive shutdown hockey, right? They just need some goal scorers. But you're right. That's one of the few times I've seen with Lou Lamoriello that he didn't get something done. Apparently he tried, right? He thought he had Johnny Gaudreau. So.
Yeah, and that would make a difference. Like you bring in, even though we always say, well, you need 4 lines, which is true.
Right.
But if you bring in one real superstar, it alters, like 2 forward lines, and it gives the teams confidence, and because you're moving somebody off that top line and moving them to the second line, and so that could have made a difference. But Johnny Gaudreau has not helped the record of the Columbus Blue Jackets.
I hate to say I told you so on that one, but I just didn't say. I just feel like he picked them because he got the most money from them. I mean, obviously, you could have got more money in Calgary, but I just felt like.
But Patrick Laine is back today, which I saw that came back ahead of schedule, and we've talked about this before, but he got off to a great. The second half of the season last year was really exceptional for him, and he can be dynamic. There's no doubt about that. So,
and how about our Nashville Predators? I know we think the world of David Poile there, but now they've got off to. I mean, it's early, right? Were they 2-4-1?
But it's really 0-4-1 in my mind because they won those 2 early games against the Sharks in Prague. Like, can we even count those? I mean, they felt like exhibitions.
Yeah.
So really, it feels like to me, it feels like they're 0-4-1.
Yeah. That's too bad though. Too. Yeah, you want to see that team do well. You want to see those players, but they're frustrating, right? Like Duchesne is just. Would he be the captain of the all no good team, underachieving team?
As that?
Matt Duchesne. Is he the captain of the all underachieving team?
Well, it'd be hard. You'd be hard pressed not to name Eichel as the captain,
right?
Because you've got such history with him,
right? Sure.
And you've been committed You've been committed to his failure.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. There's no backing down on that.
You've been very, very consistent. I want to talk about food a little bit, just because but I don't think it's a food you care even one thing about. I've never heard you mention it. My son-in-law, there's a restaurant here in Ann Arbor called Metzger's, and it's a German restaurant. It literally has been, it's really an old restaurant. It was in Ann Arbor. I don't remember the exact number of years, but it's in the 70 or 80 year range. It's been in the family. They shut down, and then the offspring brought it back up, a decade ago, and they moved it a little bit. But anyway, my wife's a vegan, and my daughter is a vegetarian. Now, that's not a restaurant. I like German food, and my son-in-law likes German food. It's not a restaurant that we can take our wives to. It's really unfair. There's really nothing there they can eat. So he had always wanted to go there. He loves German beer as well. And I said, well, I'll take you there on your birthday. So we went on Monday. We went without our wives, and we went and we had some beer, and we ordered some German food.
Party time.
Pardon me?
Party time.
Yeah, boys up.
Yeah.
And there are two favorite meals I have of German food. I like Sauerbraten, which is kind of the German version of roast beef. It comes with kind of a whitish looking gravy, but it's and then I love Schnitzel. Schnitzel, yeah, and which is breaded pork. Well, there are other kinds, but
I didn't know that. Okay, well.
Yeah, but it's they pound it so it's thin, and then it just has like a fried chicken like coating on it. Totally unhealthy for you.
Okay.
So anyway, we go there, and of course, they used to have a combination where you could get one of each, and so you get a little taste of both, which is my two favorites. Not anymore. Post COVID, that combination platter is gone. Oh, so now you're forced to make a judgment call. And my son-in-law decided to go with the Schnitzel, and I went with the Sauerbraten, and I had buyer's regret. I looked at the Schnitzel, and it looked better than my Sauerbraten, and I wished I'd taken that.
Would it be? Is there that big of meals that you can't do both?
Yeah, we could have. We did. I actually did give him some of my Sauerbraten, but I didn't take any of his.
He wouldn't share his Schnitzel?
Oh, I'm sure he would have, but I didn't ask.
Didn't ask for it. Yeah, two men eating up each other's plates at a restaurant really doesn't really go well, right?
Yeah, no, yeah. Even though he is my son-in-law.
Yeah, I know.
But,
the rest of the world.
But the beer, we made the right choice on the beer. I got a dark German beer, and it was just so good.
Oh, right. So, did you see that Potvin? Did you see that?
Yeah, I did. I thought that was really clever. They finally came up with an answer to Potvin sucks.
Yeah. Over 40 years now, they've been chanting that. So people that don't know, went back to Dennis Potvin hit Ulf Nielsen in a game at Madison Square Garden, broke his leg, and the Ranger fans have never forgot it. They still do it now. They do it at preseason games. They do it at Yankee games, Giant games. So there's this whistle that somebody comes up with. And somebody whistled, and then everybody goes, Potvin sucks. I think some people don't even know why they're doing it. They just do it because it's always happened. So
no. Cool. Well, I mean, just think about it. I mean, if you're 38 years old, you weren't even alive. Yeah. When this all kind of happened.
Oh, they were really on it for a while. Like in the national anthem, he'd be standing there, they'd throwing dead fish at him. The rink would just stink. They were really nasty. They really toned. Obviously, I remember he got interviewed recently too. He says, "Man, they just will never. Can they just drop it?" And it was pretty funny. No,
they can't just drop it. Well, anyway, we're going to cut a little short tonight. I got to get to practice today.
What practice you got? Oh, that's right.
I get to Red
Wings practice. That's right. Okay.
Yeah, I'm going down to that. They got the noon practice because they had the game yesterday, and they've got the Bruins tomorrow, which is, that's the other thing about. I thought that Lalonde was almost prophetic. Because on Sunday, after they got the 3-0-2 start, only the fourth time since 1967 that they gotten points in their first 5 games of the season. Wow. But when you look at it, they hadn't really played anybody. Like the Kings were the only team that had made the playoffs out of their first 5 games. And what Lalonde said is, let's not get carried away. Let's be real on where we're at with this team. And it's almost like he sensed it was coming because they laid an egg last night. They came out flat. and played well. And it really seemed like he prophesized that this was coming, and it came.
How has Sider played to start the year?
He has been not as productive offensively in the first 6 games. Now, saying that, that's a little bit by design. Like, I think they have said to him, we'd rather you be a beast than, get a bunch of points. And so they've asked him not to take, a lot of chances. So
I don't like that.
I don't either.
Yeah, you got a talent like that, cut him loose.
Yeah. But his production's on. And to be honest with you, and, again, I remember telling Red Wings fans this, Lucas Raymond played with Dylan Larkin. And I said at the end of last year, you got to stop thinking, Red Wing fan base, that the lines are going to look the same, that every coach sees things differently. Like, Bertuzzi may not play with Larkin. Lucas Raymond may not play with Larkin because maybe Lalonde sees that things different. Well, that's what's happened. Like, Raymond has ended up on the second line, and he has not been as productive. He has 2 assists. He hasn't scored a goal yet. And there's only like 2 forwards on the Red Wings who don't have goals. One of them is Andrew Copp. Who's also been up to a slow start.
He's a good player. I like him too. Yeah, that's surprising.
Oh, he's a real good player. Yeah, and Lucas Raymond's going to score. So,
and no contract talks for it's Bertuzzi and Larkin, right?
Yeah, we haven't heard anything. Yeah, so
But like you said, Steve Yzerman's not going to tell you anyways, right?
No, he actually says that. I don't talk about contracts.
Yeah.
So I don't talk about contracts. Anyway, we appreciate you listening. We'll be back next week. If you want to read me, I'm at DetroitHockeyNow.com.
Right. And somebody's got to remind me to go check up this soon. We're still doing this, but if you want to go listen to the radio version of the show, go to radio.co at 365 Sports. I'm going to check this as soon as we get done.
Yeah, check on it after you fix your tire.
Yeah.
That'd be good.
So. Thank you. All right, buddy. See you next week.
Yep. Bye now.